Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about discouragement specifically. What is discouragement? How it arises, why it arises, and what are the things that we can do to actually prevent ourselves from being discouraged more often than not? And if discouragement does arise, how can we properly deal with it so that we can return to our process, to our lives with increased enthusiasm, with increased motivation, and for us to be able to accomplish things in a very effective way and fundamentally feel good about ourselves. So I think first and foremost, the most important thing to understand is discouragement and what discouragement is. Discouragement at its fundamental level is a loss of confidence or enthusiasm. So you're losing your level of confidence, so you're not feeling as strong, you're not feeling as integrated, and you're not feeling as motivated or enthusiastic to do things. Discouragement typically is in relationship to a specific goal, right? So whether that goal is, like, for example, I was speaking to my nephew today. He was a bit discouraged. He was playing foosball with my other nephew, and he was losing, and he's younger. And he didn't want to continue playing because he knows that his older brother's going to kick his ass. So he was discouraged after he lost a couple of points, and he didn't want to keep playing. So it always has to be in relationship to a goal. You can't just be discouraged in a nebulous fashion. So if you're discouraged, it means that you're discouraged as far as, doing your job or launching your business or going to the gym or eating healthy, right? Seeing some progress with your body. You make some improvements with your mental state of well-being, and then you snap on somebody, or you feel like, you're ahead in the game, and then the other team scores like 3 goals, and you're like, fuck, right? So these are the types of situations that we typically find ourselves in when we feel discouraged. Or you have some great ideas, you've been developing a plan, and then you go to your business partner, or let's say, for example, you work for a company, you go to your boss and you present these ideas, and they get shot down, and you're like, oh man, you start to feel discouraged. Now, here's the interesting part about the internet is that the most common reason that people feel discouraged lately, when I say lately, I mean over the last maybe 10 years or so, 15 years roughly, since the advent of the internet and social media specifically, is we constantly are tuning into what other people are doing with their lives. And because other people are presenting an image and they're presenting these ideas, when we consume content, especially if you're consuming content around something that you want to do, or somebody that you want to become, or a life that you want to adopt, for example, it's very easy to feel discouraged. So you want, say, for example, to live a happy, carefree, financially free life. You want to live a life where you are married, like you have a husband and you have 3 kids, or you have a wife and you have 3 kids, or whatever, that you are able to live where you want to live, that you have the ability to make good decisions and to have really good relationships with people around you, and the relationships are healthy and they give back to you, and they're motivating, and you feel so blessed. Whatever that life is, oftentimes what happens in this culture is that a lot of content is consumed around people who have, quote unquote, achieved a certain state that one would want to achieve. And then the people that consume all that content begin to feel discouraged because they realize the distance from where they are to where they want to be. So that's actually a fallacy. The reason it's a fallacy is because we're not fundamentally designed as human beings to be able to process all of the information that we're consuming on a regular basis. So what that means is, typically speaking, we would be in a tribe of people. And so there would be a leader, a couple of leaders of the tribe. And you would say, okay, so I'm here where I am right now. And typically the tribes are kind of segregated into men and women, but now society, it's kind of like all together. So let's put that aside. But typically you're thinking to yourself, okay, so I want to be in a particular position. I want to be a leader. There are only like a couple of leaders in this tribe, right? There's like the main leader, like the main 2 leaders, and like different areas, and plus the people that they report to and other people that kind of work under them. It's almost like an organization in a sense. And typically the person who's at the top is the more competent, the most skilled person. And so you think to yourself, okay, well, I'm in my tribe. I know exactly what I have to do. I have to perform very well. I have to cooperate with other people, but simultaneously be the best. And the path is very clear. So it's very straightforward. Now, what happens when you have 100 leaders? then you start to feel overwhelmed. Then you don't know what to do. Your anxiety signal, your chaos signal is popping off left, right, and center. You have all of these different potential options, and you have no idea specifically what you need to do and where you need to go because you're consuming so much information, you can't possibly make sense of everything. So when you're feeling discouraged, typically speaking, right, around the internet space is because you're consuming too much content. So the short answer to that is number one, consume less content and make sure that whatever content that you're consuming, it's actually useful to you, you're taking notes and you're implementing it right away. That's the most important thing. The second thing is if it's not in the context of the internet, just know that, and by the way, when you're picking something to consume, what you want to do is you want to consume the stuff that resonates the most with you and make sure that you're implementing and you're getting the feedback from the world before you start to consume more. So really it's about at least a one-to-one correlation between one-to-one ratio between consumption and implementation. So you want to at least implement as much as you consume, but you also want to be able to give some time to get the feedback from what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to know what's doing what. You can't possibly parse out all of the different variables. We're basically what I'm trying to tell you is we're not equipped to handle all of this information. It's too much information. So you have to scale everything back. Just like I mentioned in my previous video entitled How to Use Fear and Anxiety for Your Favor or as a superpower or something to that effect. It's really taking all of the different options that are out there and then bringing everything back to the center and finding out specific, okay, where am I? What is my goal? And what are the few things that I can do right now? Or what is the one or two things that I can do right now that are priorities that would move you a little bit closer? So you already know what to do. You don't need to consume a bunch of stuff. And if you do need more information, you just need to go to like one source potentially, or like just one or two, right? You're like testing the water. You're like, here it is. You grab the thing, you grab what's useful, and then you start to act on it. You get the feedback from that thing, and then you can return. So really, you got to calm things down. You got to bring things together, calm things down. Now, if it's in the context of, like I said, you're discouraged because you're playing some kind of a game or you have some other kind of a goal and you're feeling discouraged, just know that the discouragement fundamentally is not coming from you. So it's not just arising naturally because you know a lot of these people that you've probably seen them, they're type A's. Maybe you're a type A, right? Which is that these people, when they fail or when they lose, they're even more motivated to win or to do better or to improve. So you have to ask yourself, if you're not in that category, which means typically speaking that they may feel a discouragement in the moment, but they just want to get it. They just want to go to the next thing. And that seems to be more of a personality trait. So let me tell you, as somebody who is not traditionally a type A, how to circumvent that, but simultaneously being competitive. And I think we're all kind of competitive to some degree. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel discouraged because your competition basically manifests itself differently depending on your personality type. So let's say, for example, you're a type A, you're competitive. Like I don't understand how a lot of people say that, people are not competitive. We are competitive. We're just competitive in specific contexts within specific domains. We're not usually as human beings, we're cooperative and competitive simultaneously. We're both, but it's impossible for a person not to be competitive. Like you are competitive, just that competition manifests itself differently. It manifests itself externally, as in like you're more motivated to do the thing, or the opposite of that, where you're feeling discouraged, you're feeling despairing because you feel like you can't possibly compete. So you still have the competitive spirit, it's just crushing you as opposed to helping you. So the competitive spirit is part of the human, is a part of the human being, right? A cooperative spirit and a competitive spirit. They're both a part of us. It just, in some cases, the competitive spirit, it will drive people forward, and other people, it'll crush them. So discouragement is basically like the crushing competitive spirit, or that part of the competitive spirit, the part of the nature of the competitive spirit that does crush. So how do you overcome that? Well, it goes back to what I talk about in a lot of my videos, which is self-parenting, which is self-talk. You have to be able to, number one, do the thing that I mentioned before, right? So, and again, if it's not in that context and it's the context of something else, what you have to do is take a pause and be able to coach yourself, right? You're basically acting as your own coach, because you can only imagine that almost everybody has had at least one good teacher, at least one good coach, at least one good role model even if it was for a day or for a month or for a semester at school. But we've all had at least one person that we feel, oh, this person was good, like an uncle or an aunt or something, or like a grandmother or grandfather, right? These people that existed in our lives that we felt good, at least for a moment at a time. Maybe it wasn't for like a long period of time, but at least for a moment in time that we were able to feel that we were seen, we were heard, we were supported, and we felt strong and confident, right? So basically, what you want to do is you want to internalize all of that energy and all of that dialogue. And the only way to do that is to not wait for other people and other things to give you exactly what you need, because you don't want to resort now, because now you might be thinking, oh, let me go back to motivational videos. That's not going to work for you, because you're always going to be relying on motivational videos. So what you want to rely on fundamentally is yourself, because everywhere you go, as the expression goes, there you are. Everywhere you go, there you are. People might be different. You may not have access to the internet. You may be away from your family. You may be alone on a desert island, but you're with yourself. You're alive, you're breathing, you're with yourself. So you want to be able to equip yourself with all of the tools that are necessary for you to be able to handle situations resiliently. So in this particular case, it really comes down to self-parenting. What would you say to yourself, to your 5-year-old self, if you were discouraged? You have to ask yourself that. What would you say? How would you support yourself? What are the words that you would want to hear? What are the words that you heard from people in your past that you wish you would have heard more of? Say more of those things. What are the words that you wish you would have heard from your caregivers that you never heard? Say those things to yourself as well. So you have to be able to give yourself credit for small wins, and you have to train your mind to do this on a regular basis. As an example, I have alarms on my phone going off every hour on the hour, and it just says prayer. I do a little prayer every hour on the hour. The same thing applies with this. So if you're perpetually in a state of despair or discouragement, you have to be able to remind yourself to do this on a regular basis. Doing it once in the morning may not be enough. You may have to do it in different parts of the day. And you may want to be able to cue yourself as far as anytime you get something done, whether it's you do the dishes, whether it's you make your bed, you clean your house, you get some task done at work or on your business, you have a healthy meal, you go to the gym one time, you always want to stop and recognize yourself. The more you stop and recognize yourself, the more that's going to be your default mode of thinking. Because remember, if you want to draw the similarity back to the type A people who are just motivated by competition and they just keep driving forward, you want to be able that because that's their default mode. So, and they don't really think much about it usually, right? Is they may have some thoughts, but those thoughts, you could tell that they're more kind of like embedded in how they are. So what you want to do is you want to embed new thoughts. You want to embed new triggers. You want to embed new emotions. And the way to do that is to constantly remind yourself. So basically, you're reminding yourself, you're creating the awareness, and then you're creating that dialogue. You're doing things to help you actually generate a state internally and then be able to use that state moving forward. And you're going to have to do that frequently, typically. And it doesn't take a long period of time. Like the prayers I'm talking about, the last 30 seconds. So let's say I have 12 alarms that go off. That's 6 minutes. You know what I mean? How hard is that? It's 6 minutes a day of praying. That's not that hard, right? 6 minutes of encouragement per day is not that hard. So it's not about doing these things on a massive scale, meditate for 2 hours. No, right? It's about making sure that all the things that you want to be doing, you're peppering them in throughout the day, because that way you have like uniformity across the steak, right? You don't just dump a whole bunch of pepper on one side of the steak. You pepper that steak in. You pepper all over the steak, right? Speaking of which, look at this. Right? That's what I'm talking about. I close my eyes and I say thank you. Say thank you to God. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the ability for me to be able to make these videos and for me to be able to spread my knowledge and hopefully help people in the process. Right? There it is, 10 seconds. Right? I pray that you give me the energy for me to unlock my heart, unlock my potential, so that way I can be as clear and comprehensive as possible in my communication, so that way somebody can take this message and be able to use it to make their lives better. Everything is done only through you. Thank you. There's a prayer, right? There's a prayer. So that's it. I think that's a perfect way to close off the video. Just remember that. Make it a part of your daily process. And when I say daily process, I mean like your day process, like the process of your whole day. Maybe not just the beginning, because like I said, that may not be enough. You sprinkle it in, you sprinkle it in, right? So anyway, hope that was helpful. If you need anything else from me, just let me know. If you have a comment, I'd love to hear your comment, your question. I record videos, whole videos on based off people's questions. If you like the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel if you subscribe to it as well. So I'd appreciate that. And I'm about to publish a new article, hopefully in the next couple of days, and look out for that. I think that's pretty much it for me. So if there's anything else, you can DM me on X, sub to my newsletter as well. And that's it. Until next time, I will see you soon.